Peace, peace. How's everybody doing out there? Peace, peace, peace. It's your girl Cosmic Paradox, also known as Queen Bra. And I wanted to take some time to specifically dedicate and talk about the movie Blue Beetle. Now, I really wanted to talk about this movie because when I initially saw the movie, I saw a lot of symbolism in it. And I recently watched it a couple more times, and I said, I should definitely do a breakdown on this movie. And it's kind of obvious because we're talking about the scarab beetle. And if you've done any studying in ancient Egypt or ancient Kemet at all, then you know there's very, very strong symbolism when it comes to the beetle. So it was only right that I took a minute to sit down and kind of give a little brief, overall little breakdown of the movie. Now, I will say, you know, DC movies don't really get the same type of attention as Disney movies, or Marvel movies, should I say. And if I'm being quite honest, if we're looking at the storytelling of it all, I honestly prefer the DC storytelling because it's more raw, it's not dressed up as much as Marvel, and Marvel bases a lot of its characters and a lot of its stories off of DC, you know. So if you really are into the occult, you into the metaphysics, you into the ancient knowledge, yes, we can see a lot of that symbolism in Marvel, but you can see a lot of it in DC as well. And the DC universe, if we're talking about making movies, they don't do really well at making movies. And this wasn't really an exception, It was a good story. I really enjoyed it, but DC just doesn't translate well into the theaters. So we don't get as many good DC stories as we could because they don't always do well. And what I find kind of ironic about DC movies is those characters or the movies that you don't really anticipate or look forward to as much, those are the ones that are better than movies, the Shazam, like Blue Beetle, you know what I'm saying, versus the Flash and the Justice League and the Batman, you know what I'm saying. Those they weren't really as good, There was some good things about them, but they just cannot compete to the MCU, and it's because of all of the time that Disney dedicated to building up those arcs. You know what I'm saying? That goes back all the way to the early 2000s when you're talking about the makings and the coming together of the MCU. So it only makes sense that with a bigger budget, you know what I'm saying, with a better character storyline, Marvel typically does better. But this movie, Blue Beetle, phenomenal movie. Now, before we get going, I want to say make sure that you like the video and make sure you take the time to subscribe to the channel. Right? Now, let's go. Now, when we're looking at the scarab beetle, it's very prominent in ancient Egyptian culture, ancient Kemetic culture, but not just in ancient Kemet. It was also in ancient Mesopotamia. It was symbolizing ancient Mesopotamia. In Greeks, the Greeks, the Romans, also the Native Americans. So there's a lot of symbolism, and it also in some African cultures as well, outside of ancient Egyptian, to have symbolic significance related to the scarab beetle. And it typically goes back to transformation. Now, also, it's in relation to the ancient Kemetic deity or the ancient Egyptian deity of Khepri. And that basically translates to the morning or the rising sun. So when we're looking at ancient Kemet, right, the scarab beetle or the dung beetle, as you may have heard it being, also being told as well, it's a very remarkable symbolic figure. It's one of the most remarkable symbolic figures ever conceived by the mind of man. And this was stated by one Manly P. Hall in the Secret Teachings of All Ages. So if you've gotten into studying your occult study, you're familiar with Manly P. Hall, this is what he said about, the scarab beetle. It was created from or by the priesthood. Right. The depiction of it has evolved from the priesthood, and it was created from utilized, because of its particular habits and the appearance of it as well, because it properly symbolized the strength of the body as well as the resurrection of the soul. So when you're looking at the scarab beetle, it has symbolic meaning connected to transformation and renewal because of the rolling balls of dung. And what they would do is those beetles would roll the balls of dung and they would bury them in the ground. And this behavior pretty much mirrored, the ancient Kemetic belief in the cycle of nature, life, death, and rebirth. So it's a symbol also of protection. It will be worn a lot as an amulet. It helps to ward off evil spirits and protects against harm. Right? So think about it in terms of the movie also, right? It has sun symbology or symbolism. The scarab is associated with the sun and its daily journey across the sky and how it rolls the dung. So the dung beetle rolls its ball of dung and the sun will start to roll across the sky the same way. So that dung ball symbolizes the sun. So again, life, death, and rebirth. So the resurrection, we're looking at resurrection. If we notice in the movie, Jaime, he did die once in the movie, right? So you're looking at resurrection. The beetle is linked to the god Khepri. So, and that deity is a solar deity. Again, like I said, it goes back to sunrise and rebirth. And when he was resurrected, so to speak, he was pretty much a whole nother being. Right? Now, also, the scarab beetle also is affiliated with mystical powers, which is not a coincidence because we see that in the movie. In some esoteric traditions, the scarab beetle is believed to possess mystical or magical powers. So it's a symbol of hidden knowledge, it's a symbol of protection, spiritual transformation, and it also is a symbol of luck and prosperity. Now, in ancient Kemet, right, they would sometimes call the initiates scarabs. The scarab was the emissary of the sun, symbolizing light, truth, and regeneration. So when you have Ra, which was, the sun god or the god of the sun, right? Ra, it had three aspects. As the creator of the universe, Ra was symbolized by the head of the scarab. So it signified resurrection of the soul and a new life at the end of the mortal span. So the resurrection, the rising of after death. Okay, so when you look at mummies, the mummy cases, they were always ornamented with these scarab beetles all through the mummy tombs. So the scarab symbolize the divine part of man's nature that will rise again. There is an ancient Kemetic allegory that states that the sunrise is caused by the scarab unfolding its wings, and when it folds its wings under, it's dark, so the sun sets. That's when night follows. All right, so Khepri is the scarab-headed aspect of Ra. Khepri or Khepri. So it symbolizes riding through the sea of the sky. You know what I'm saying? So that's the symbology of it. So whenever you would see those scarab beetle hieroglyphs, it was in reference to one of the aspects or the symbolism affiliated with the scarab beetle. All right, so if you're talking about transformation, you're talking about regeneration, you're talking about rebirth, you also along the lines of alchemy, because alchemy is turning base lead into gold or transforming, transcending to a higher spiritual self, which is pretty much what our main character Jaime pretty much did in becoming one with the scarab, with the beetle. So in becoming that, it transformed him into something greater, right? Now we get into the movie, and when we look at the movie, it was interesting because they had the OMAC, right? And the OMAC, OMAC, it stood for One Man Army Corps, right? One Man Army Corps. So they wanted to weaponize this technology, of course. So when you're dealing with a people that can't see beyond just this physical, That's pretty much what you're gonna get. You know what I'm saying? Weaponizing, using, trying to utilize something for power. That's pretty much what you get. So it's pretty much creates a self-contained war unit, allowing a single soldier to harness the power of legions. That's exactly what it said. To harness the power of legions. This is very specific wording that you have to understand and pay attention to. Because when you get into talking about legions, you know what else is referred to in terms of legions? When you're talking about demons. Now remember, they told you that this was a world destroying weapon, because when you talking about everything that it was referring to in the movie, we talking about chaos beings, we talking about chaos energy, we're talking about melanin, right? We're gonna get into it. So that was interesting verbiage, because when you talk about opening the third eye, when one understands the dark psyches of the mind, and when you get into understanding the Goetia, because if you know a lot of people refer to things of this nature as being demonic. Anything outside of the church or the mosque, or the synagogue is considered to be demonic, depending on which one of them three branches you come from. But if it's not within the religion itself, then it has to be with the other side, right? And so in terms of that, because that's what they do, they take all of the ancient knowledge itself, everything that's about the soul, everything that's about the spirit, everything going back to these ancient priesthoods, is what has been dedicated as your demonic sector. So that's in opposition to you, or at least it's supposed to be, because that's what you're indoctrinated to believe. You indoctrinated to look at everything outside of the church as being something of the devil, something satanic. Couldn't be further from the truth. Because honestly, when you get into this information, right, you notice it's always Christian people, right? It's always Christian and religious people who call people satanic, and say they demonic, they worship the devil and stuff like that. But if you really deal with a lot of them, and I'm not talking about the religious satanic people, but when you really talk to people who really understand and get into and study the occult, they don't worship anything. See, the only people who really believe in the devil is Christians. Hear me out. The only people who really believe in Satan the way you giving this shit, the way it's given to you, is Christians. Because if you take any bit, if you just read just a little bit, you just realize how much bullshit it is. Because it's taking something that had this meaning or esoteric meaning for you to empower yourself, and you place that as an entity that is outside of self. Just like the same thing they did with Christ. They created an entity outside of self. Say, hey, this is what you have to look to. So it's the same thing. So now, even when bad stuff happens, hey, this is what happens. But in reality, both of those energies exist within you. They exist within you. So you're supposed to be addressing yourself from the inside, not looking on the outside, because nobody is ever going to come to save you. That's really the point. Nobody's coming to save you. You have to save yourself. All right. So when you understand what it's talking about in terms of legion, that's you unlocking your own mind. That's opening your third eye. You have legions at your command. That's really what it is. So that whole process, this scarab, that beetle chose him. Out of all, for years and years and years, the beetle never chose anybody. It wasn't open. They had access to some of the technology, but it never activated. It activated from him. So it changed him. It transformed him. So when you see it go in him, right, you see all this pure black energy and everything just come all over his whole body, and it burns everything off his body, and you just see all this whole blackness. That's the melanin. That's the chaos energy. That's like looking at it. It's like I say, it's the melanin. So he heard a voice. He hears a voice. It said, host acquired. That's just like you have dialogue in your head. He said, there's a voice in my head. There's a voice in your head. You hear yourself even if it's the faintest, and you have to listen real hard, there's a voice. There's your deep inner voice that's telling you, or trying to tell you, or trying to help you, and to help you to navigate in this world. But you have to be able to listen and hear that voice. So what we seeing is, this is the soul coming into a body. This is how your soul got in a body. This is representation of the soul in the body. Because if you think about it, the beetle is alien. It's some alien technology. Now let's explore that. Let's explore what it means to be alien or extraterrestrial. Extraterrestrial simply means not of this terrain, not of this earth. So what else is not of this earth? I don't think your soul is of this earth. Not your soul. So your soul is encompassed in a body that is of this earth, but your soul ain't of this earth. So understand, the beetle, Kaja, right? That's what he called the voice. That's what he called it, the entity or whatever it was, Kaja. It was like the soul. It was like his soul self, right? So the system did a whole check on him, right? And everything, it checked everything in the suit and his host. So it took him to outer space, because you need melanin to go to outer space. You can't go to outer space without no melanin, right? So you need melanin to go to outer space, because of course everything has to be up to par. So making sure everything works, everything, checking his fight system, it's like checking your reflexes when you go to the doctor, right? They're going to check your reflexes to make sure that naturally your reflexes are in order. So naturally, because that suit, because of what's within him, right? Because now what's in him is gonna activate to protect him at all times, right? So it was extremely terrifying for him, because he doesn't understand what's happening. Just like you don't understand what's happening. You don't understand what's going on in your meat suit all the time. And most of the time you're scared to death, not understanding what's happening, not knowing what to do. It's the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Jaime yelled, he said, "Why are you doing this to me?" And Kaja, she said, "Host is overreacting," because that's how we do. You know what I'm saying? We don't understand we're divine beings having an experience, and we overreact to the experience. But it's just an experience. It ain't easy while you in it, because your mind is making it real for you while you in it. But at the end of the day, a lot of times that's what you doing. You know what I'm saying? You overreacting to whatever it is that's going on. You got a problem, you got an issue, you overreacting about it. 3 months from now, you're not even going to remember that problem that you had, but you're not thinking about it that way, because you don't understand. It's a lack of the understanding, right? So like I said, she told him, she said, it's a world destroying weapon, because that's what your soul is capable of. It's like an atom, atomic, or nuclear bomb that's inside of you. That's what's inside of you. Like, you literally are like a nuclear bomb within yourself, your energy body, if you know how to utilize it. But so it's a world destroying weapon. That's what is within you. So naturally, because you have a soul that doesn't, that's just confined to this, of course it can be displayed as an energy bringing life itself to an end, because it's trying to go back from whence it came, which can only be done through the liberation of death. That's just what it is, right? So it had to choose him. So you gotta be chosen. You have to be chosen for this shit. Everybody is not meant to have this ancient knowledge, yo. Everybody's not meant to walk this path. It chose you. You understand? It chose you. So you can't make people walk a path that's not for them. It's for you to walk. It's for you. You the one that have to do the saving. It's for you to do all the saving. Now there's a pivotal moment in their character arc when Jaime's dad dies. And this is real important, because of what his father represents, or what the father period represents, when it comes to the hero's journey, when it comes to the inner journey. You see, the father represents the destiny or purpose. So whenever you seeing a journey where somebody got to find their father or something going on with their father in particular, it got to do with destiny. It has to do with purpose. So his father, he had to die. Remember, they had a conversation where he was talking about his purpose. And he was like, I'm still trying to find it. Jaime, I don't know what it is yet. So remember, he saw his father in the spirit realm. And that's why his father knew. That's why he had to die, because it was his purpose to guide him from the other side. See, when our loved ones pass away, they are guiding us from the other side. There's more energy and more push from you from the spirit realm. It's gonna hurt for them not to be with you in the physical, but they gonna be with you. They with you, but they not with you. You understand? So you got this energy. There's somebody pushing from the other side. There's somebody working in the spirit for you. So his father had to die. His father had to pass away, because when he had that moment where he died, remember, the scarab is about resurrection, right? It's about renewal. It's about rebirth. So he had to be reborn. So he had to be captured. Understand, he had to be captured so that in that moment he could die. So he could go to the spirit world. Just like Black Panther, he had to die so he could go to the spirit world. When you dealing, like, you gotta understand this whole spiritual aspect. Like, it's a big part of our identity. We just have seemed to lost all of that ancient knowledge. You know what I mean? But his father had to help him from that side, because death is not the end. It's not the end all be all. And it's an honor to die for the people that you love. It's an honor to die for your loved ones. Never forget that. It's an honor to die for your loved ones. So he found his purpose in his death. So it took for him to die to understand what it was he had to do. He had to tell him, Jaime, this not your time, bro. You got something to do. There's something for you to do. And at the same time, this is when they're trying to get the code. So understand, they're downloading the code. What makes the scarab the scarab? Because remember, the brain is a computer. So it attaches to the brain and directly connects to your nervous system. That's why I could take over his whole body. Your brain rules your whole body. That's why I could heal him and everything, because it became one with his brain, with his brainstem. So they have to download the code. So remember, the brain is like a computer, and what runs a computer? Software, operating systems, coding, a code, right? So this is how they know they can transfer your consciousness to a mainframe or to a computer. This is what they're trying to do when they're trying to evade death. But what are they really trying? Who is really trying to evade death? Because we've always known death is not the end. So what if I'm holding myself back trying to stay here when there is something more for me to do beyond this place? That's what we used to understand. But see, there are people on this earth that don't got nowhere to go when it's all said and done. So you can imagine what those particular types of being might be doing in order to prolong their existence. This is where you get the whole thing coming in, where you're talking about trapping souls and reincarnating people back to the earth. But that's a different story for another day, you know. But this is how they know they can transfer your consciousness. They telling you, they showing you how it's done. They literally are telling you. See, we looking at it as just entertainment, man, but it's beyond that. It's the mystery. It's the mystery of you that's all up in this so-called entertainment. That's why we gravitate to it so much. That's why we love it so much, because it's our fucking stories. It's literally just our stories about ourselves. So it's a subconscious connection. It's a subconscious knowing, right? So when his heart rate drops, when he dies, very symbolic to an ego death. This is showing you like an ego death, So his father helps him to understand his purpose. right? And it shows you in that moment when he jumps and he reaches out for Kaija. It's exactly like the Michelangelo depiction when God is touching Adam. It's not a coincidence in that, because of what it's trying to relate to you, what it's trying to show you. All of these things go on in your inner world. This is all happening inside of you, right? Um, so, because, at the same time of him being born as his other form of himself, so is his opposition. So is his opposition. Carapax, or Ignacio. Ignacio. So he gets the same powers of the scarab. And then remember, so when a hero rises or when a villain rises, they have to rise at the same time. That's just like Spider-Man, right? When the spider that bit him, we saw that in the last one, Across the Spider-Verse. When the spider bit him and created him and made him, it also made his opposite. It made his nemesis. It made Spot. So one can't exist without the other. That's what it's showing you. You can't get one without the other. And even so, even more evidence of it. Kaja said in the movie, she said, whatever you can imagine, I can create. That's the power that you got with your own creativity. Anything that you can imagine, you can create. Everything that's ever was created was a part of an imagination, was a figment of an imagination first. So it existed here before it existed in the world. So that idea came from this inner world brought to this outer world, right? So we see, of course they have to fight it out and everything like that. And when he thinks his uncle has been killed, his anger comes out, and that anger got him stronger. That's your chaos element. That tear shit down energy. That energy can be very, very destructive. And he was gonna lose control, and he was really ready to kill the guy. But it was Kaija who said no. It was Kaija who had to remind him, you're not a killer. This is not who we are. This is not what we're gonna do. Let me show you who he is, because it allowed me to see his memory. So in doing that and seeing everything he'd been through, being made a child soldier, watching his mother die as a child, because that lady found him as a child, manipulated him, made him a soldier. He blew up, changed his whole body. He went through so much. So much. And when you can see and understand where that opposite is coming from, it's compassion. Compassion automatically enters the mix. And once there's a moment of, once there's that element of compassion, you then enter the heart realm. And once you enter the heart realm, anything is possible. Anything is possible. So in that elevated, Ignacio, even in himself, into saying what was wrong with him. So all in all, it was a very, very occult metaphysical movie that was really breaking down understanding that Christ energy, that chaos element, who and what you truly are, and why that is always being kept from you, and why, things happen the way that they do, and because we aren't taught these things anymore, because we have to seek these things out, right? A lot of this is portrayed in, your movies and in your storytelling and in your artistic forms of expression, because honestly and truly, to just openly, blatantly talk about this information, you will get a lot further with people in telling them a story. Aside from telling them facts, you will get a much further, because entertainment allows you to enter the mental. So within that, you are able to plant seeds in people's subconscious based on the story that you are telling. So it's important to understand symbology so you can know the story being told to you. This is really your story. It's a beautiful story. This is your mystery. This is your myth. But, it takes for one to do the work, do the study, and, come to terms with the knowledge, come to a place of understanding. So when you're looking at this scarab beetle, when you see blue beetle, so now you can see it and look at it with a different eye, and look at to what is relaying to you, about your own soul, about your own inner being, about what's within you, and also what's being limited within you. And if you look at the movie, right? So it with the uncle Rudy, right? He had like a conspiracy theory type of vibe about him. But when shit hit the fan, that was the family member who was able to be the most useful. And it was funny because he was talking to him and he was saying, like, I'm the useless son. But he wasn't. He wasn't. It's just there's a time and a place, right? And most of us as black sheep, you're doing spiritual work. People can't see the work that you do. And nothing can be more frustrating when people minimize or want to diminish the work that you put in because they don't understand it. And I go through it all the time. And it's something that I find myself having to deal with my anger about, because it's frustrating, when and it's not even about credit. It's just about understanding that, shit happens. Shit go on sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Because me and my husband, and I'm saying this speaking personal experience, because, we work from home. We work for ourselves. We homeschool our kids. You know what I'm saying? We provide knowledgeable content. We write books, put information out to help people better themselves. And, it's still always kind of that side eye or those little remarks about the work that is being done, like, because my work don't look like your work, because I don't go clock in at a 9 to 5. But understand, I never stop working. I work all the time. You know what I'm saying? If we teaching 4 kids, imagine teachers get paid a salary to teach. You understand? To teach the curriculum. So we got 4 kids that we teaching every day. That's 6 to 8 hours dedicated to their education. Nobody else is responsible for it but us. That's a lot of work. You know what I'm saying? Like, even diving into all of this knowledge, all this information, it's a lot of work. It's a lot that you put in to it, so you have to be in this genuinely from your heart, because it's just who you are. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not going to be about the reward. It will be times that, of course you'll be rewarded for what you do. It comes, but it's not always going to be monetary gains when it comes to spiritual work. Now, when it comes to spiritual work, and that's the greatest work of your life, regardless of what society trying to tell you, regardless of what people trying to pull you into or back into to do or to be, it's the greatest work of your life. This is the most, knowledge itself is the most important thing on the whole entire planet. It's the most important thing, because you can't take none of this material shit with you when you go. That's all I'm saying. But I wanted to, talk about this Blue Beetle because I've been wanting to talk about it for a while. It's a great film. It's a great movie. It's a great message. A lot of symbolism in it. I know y'all enjoy it if you haven't seen it yet. But when you look at it, take notice of some of these little symbolic things, and it will speak to you in a different way, So, but on that note, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. Y'all feel free to drop any comments on anything that I left out. Anything you might want to add, any questions that you might have, feel free to drop a comment below. I'm out. Peace.